Hello and welcome to another episode of Lowdown. Today I am delighted to be joined by the Academy Director of Austin FC, Juan Delgado. Juan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Connor. My pleasure being with you guys today.
Juan, just going to begin. What does football mean to you?
Wow, that's a big, that's a big question. Nice one. Now, football to me means joy. It means a way of living, and it means most importantly, a way to be connected to a higher purpose. So I always say that you can see on my emails and my signature is using the power of football for serving humanity better. I think we've been fortunate enough to find our call and to dedicate our life to what we love. And we have the opportunity to help a lot of people and to support the others people's dreams. So that's what football means to me at any given level.
And obviously, you've dedicated a significant proportion of that time whilst you've been involved in football, Juan, to coaching. How early did your journey as a coach begin?
That's again an excellent question, and it began very early because age 19, I had to, unfortunately, I had two ACL surgeries in a row. So I realized that playing won't be anymore an option for me. So I started coaching at very early age. So I was 19 and I was lucky enough to join Villarreal system as a volunteer first. It was as an assistant coach of one of the lower level U10, I think at the time, yeah. So yeah, and my journey began there, and as I said, very lucky to join the club just at the beginning of the new era when the Roach family acquired the club and built the training facility and brought the most advanced methodology at the time, no, in Spain. So it was very innovative, and I spent 9 years of my life there, learning a lot and making uh, lifelong lasting friendships as well. So it was a great experience.
And of course, you spent the majority of your early days, Juan, at both Villarreal and Valencia, households, prestigious names when it comes to Spanish football. But then you received a surreal opportunity, really, at the time, very early in your coaching career, to join the Aspire Academy in Qatar, where you were to go on and spend 12 years. Would you have foreseen before going to Qatar that you would have spent 12 years in Doha?
Not really, not really. The idea of going abroad was always in the back of my mind. After 9 years, 10 years in total in Spain, uh, my girlfriend at the time, with my wife right now, and the mother of my two daughters, and myself, we were thinking, of having an experience, as I said, abroad, prior to the 2008 crisis. We moved on 2007. After the crisis was a common thing for Spaniards to move and to have experience outside of our country, but previous to that, it was common, life in Spain, quality of life was very high, and people wasn't as I said, willing to go abroad. So we had this opportunity to go 2007, September 2007. Uh, and the idea was to go just for a year, go there, have the experience, learn about other cultures, have the opportunity to also exchange uh, experiences with other coaching schools. And yeah, but it turned out to be at 12 years of our lives there. And as I said, a lot of friendships, a lot of experiences, a lot of traveling, success and failure. And as I mentioned, we went being two and we came back being four. So big memories.
And speaking of traveling, your career has been one big journey so far. You're on another journey to date. We were just speaking off camera, Juan. Where are you guys off to today?
I sorry, can you repeat the question? I just
Yeah, no, I was just
missed it
saying
for a moment.
we were speaking off air before the podcast began, Juan. You guys are on the road today. Where you guys
Yeah,
off to?
yeah. Yeah, that's the reason I couldn't hear the question actually is because we're doing the interview while we are in the shuttle bus in our way to Dallas. So yeah, you're right.
And your current role now within the academy at Austin FC. I mean, presently, how would you describe your job, Juan, and what does the day to day look like?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. Uh, so my role is basically it was and it has changed over a year and a half here, because initially the idea was together with Tyson Wall, the general manager, to develop not only the academy but the strategy as well. So helping out setting up different departments, the different strategies, the vision of the academy ultimately. And nowadays it's more fine tuning the training methods. So we have created the structures, we have created as I said, the four pillars that for us are the way we organize the key processes. One is the football performance side, the other part is the human performance side. There is another pillar for us that is obviously the talent management, which involves all the decisions between the players, and then the football operations as well. It's basically all the administrative and logistics. So that's the way we organized. That's what the beginning was the focus of creating the right structures and the right processes and finding the right people. Right. Was the most challenging and the most important one. So hiring the right profile of people. So and nowadays my focus is more on the football performance side. So trying to make sure that the methods and systems and the coaching is world class. So and we constantly evolving. So since the academy is as only 2 years old, so the process of growth is been very constant. So we are expanding from 3 teams to 5 teams next season, for instance. So this also has an impact on the coaching philosophy because we had developed a model for the U15s, 14s, and 13s. Now we have to adapt and adjust this model for the U17s and for the U12s as well. So it's a constant evolution, it's a constant learning, trying to try new things, learning by experience, and again, trying to fulfill the main goal, which is becoming a reference here in the US by 2026, both developing players, but also
to go to the
in
Valero
terms
that
of
you asked for,
coaching
we have to
development.
turn around, or do you want me to just?
And I suppose, Juan, in terms of building an academy from the ground up, establishing a philosophy, recruiting staff, recruiting players, establishing that culture, what was the most challenging aspect?
Well, to be honest with you, if you have a clear vision on where do you want to go, uh, the challenging aspect it's been easy. I'm afraid to say that, and the audience might think that I want to be as humble as possible, but I think it's been easy because things have flown, and I think it's very important to have a clear vision of what you want to do, and then entrust people and create a right culture. Because it's uh, I think it was Coach Gooden, John Gooden saying, if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you better build a team. So that's the philosophy. So I knew where we wanted to go. I didn't know how to get there. I had some ideas, but finding people with thirsty of knowledge, willing to work as a team, and creating the right culture, when people can feel endorsed and vulnerable as well, So when mistakes are taken as an opportunity to get better, and supporting each other is something that we embrace every day, it makes things easier. So for me, it's a vision, and it's the values, and creating the right environment so people can thrive and learn and don't be afraid of making mistakes.
And in terms of building that culture from scratch, I mean, what are your non-negotiables when you begin building that culture? What does it look like, Juan?
That's a very interesting question. I mean, non-negotiables is discipline. Non-negotiable is empathy. Non-negotiable is understanding that we're dealing with human beings, and putting the person first. Understanding that every player is a project, regardless of his own potential. It could be a project for Champions League or for college level. So, but it's still a project. So putting the focus on the players. And again, I think when we have a dilemma here, it's always getting back to the question: is that good for the player? So non-negotiable would be that. Timekeeping is a big one, which I'm not very good at, but I'm trying to be as I mean, after 12 years in the Middle East, I'm being Spanish, is something I need to work on. But yeah, and then again, having a culture where the best ideas always triumph. Uh, and I think it's important as well. The way I'm seeing leadership is, I always have the analogy of a traffic light, So knowing when to allow and to have the green light, knowing when to discuss things and coming to an agreement, and knowing also when there is a boundary or a line and it has to be the red light. So I think I've been very fortunate of the group of people that we've been able to recruit, and the team that we are doing.
And in terms of building that culture, I mean, you obviously had your own idea of what it would look like prior to moving to Austin. Was that a combination of your experience in Villarreal,
I don't want to get
Valencia,
a ticket from
in
Pilates.
Qatar, or did you have to adapt and slowly refine that idea when you moved to Texas?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have, I would say, 3 months to see how things were functioning, understanding a little bit of the culture, the different structures and clubs, and what were the motivations as well for families. Uh, so seeing the difference from my previous experiences, and understanding the American model was my first priority. Uh, Once this was understood, again, I was lucky also to have the possibility to hire uh, 3 more Spanish individuals that they were living here in the US. Uh, so it was easier for me to convince them and to create the line of work, the line of work for the others to follow. So that was a lucky strike, to be honest, having people close by, and the ability to hire them. It made my life easier. And finally, the experience in Doha gave me also a lot of resources and tools, of dealing with different cultures. So we have here at the academy 13 different nationalities as well. Sorry, 11 nationalities within the coaching staff. So I believe with different backgrounds. So that's something that we had as well in Doha, and I think respect is a big one. Understanding that everybody has his own background, culture, and being respectful to that is crucial, I believe.
Of course, Juan, you also have that academic background too. You have that PhD in football science. Now, having the perfect blend between practice and theory, in your opinion, why do so many coaches at the initial stage of when they're trying to build that culture, like you are now at Austin FC, why do so many coaches get that relationship between practice and theory wrong when they're implementing a game model?
Yeah, I think people realize that, or the idea, at least the approach from my end, is that science has to support uh, or data in this case. We live now in a data-driven era, and I think for me, what I have tried always to do is to simplify things without losing the essence, and for the coaches to understand that football is always first, teaching the game is always first, and then there is a different tools and technologies and disciplines that you can use to give sense to this pedagogical process. Uh, and again, I think as, as as important as having a clear game model in mind or in design, having a clear pedagogical model is as crucial as that, or even more. So, because at the end we forgot that we are here to teach the players, right? And we are, yeah, the more the coaches know about the game, potentially, the more they will be able to teach, but not necessarily. So I think having a teaching model, and this is something we start developing now. I call it the version 2.0. We have created version 1.0, where we have a clear set of principles. We know what happened every day. We have a monthly cycle that allows us to both learn our main principles, but also prepare the boys for different scenarios and different opponents and different future coaches as well. Um, but the pedagogical piece is something that I'm very keen to go deeper into, uh, mixing different teaching styles, giving room for freedom and replicating the street football piece, which some people is missing. The new generations are missing basically, and we forget the importance of that, the importance of joy and just play. So, and this day the coach has to be an observer, maybe, instead of trying to intervene. And there is another day in the week where we need to induce the discovery process, and maybe we need to go into this guy discovery style where we ask the right questions and we give a lot of information and they need to process it. Another day is the day that we're gonna be the surgeon, and we're gonna push them emotionally because it's something they're gonna face. And finally is the confidence day as well. As we approach the game, we want them to feel confident. We want them to have a lot of success. We're gonna be focused on the things that they do well and prize them. So again, there is it's been a journey, and yeah, you have to have your principles. You have to have your clear how you want to play and how you want to train, but then is what else can you do to help the player? How can you present the information in a way that is challenging, but at the same time is rewarding their efforts too. So that's where we are at the minute right now.
And I suppose one interesting point there, you speak about creating joy in training, making sure the players are enjoying themselves. You think there's too much fear in youth development that that it's not about thriving, it's more about survival of the fittest.
Yeah, well, it depends on where you are, but again, and it depends also. Generally speaking, I would say yes to your question, right? But we need to understand also the culture of every place is different. So if a youth coach is judged upon the performance and results, let's say the results, so he's gonna act in a particular way, no? And if the culture of the club, if this repeats over the time, it becomes part of the DNA of the club, and and by default, the coaches are gonna act on this sense, you know. So if you make sure that the focus is on developing players, and if you make sure that the players understand that we are there to help them arrive to the first team, first and foremost, and if not, to develop their level to the maximal capacity. And this message is reinforced by the higher ranks within the club, then everything becomes easier, you know. And again, I think culture is, you can build it different ways, but there is a tendency that is from top to bottom. So if the ownership, if the owners of the club, if the sporting director, if the head coach of the first team have a clear vision, like they do have here in Austin, that the academy is meant to develop players, uh, not to win the next game. But of course, everybody wants to win. But if this message is strong enough, the coaches are going to understand it, and they're going to leave the training process on this way.
Fantastic. And then if we're to focus back, Juan, on the technical and tactical stuff, I mean, in terms of identifying players based on your game model, based on principles of play, do you guys focus on any key performance indicators or analytics to track this?
Not really. I mean, we to be honest, we try to simplify things. We know the kind of player we want, or the kind of combination of players we want, because at the end is a, you know, talent in football is a very wide, complex concept, right? You can be talented as Drogba, or you can be talented Jordi Alba, you know. And if you compare these two players and you ask somebody who doesn't know them, they will not tell you that they play the same sport, right? So talent comes in a variety of ways and forms in football. So the idea is to find the best players and to teach them how to play the way you want to play, right? And to use different strategies to develop themselves. So, and when as per the use of data is concerned, we do use uh, the speed test basically to uh, to support the decisions when scouting players. So when we have to recruit a player, the first thing is observing. Whenever we do a trial here with the team, when we invite them on trial, we do test them in a very simple manner using the GPS. So we don't. But this data is important for us because at the end, if you analyze football right now, and if you watch a game from 10 years ago and you watch a game from yesterday, the main difference that you're gonna see is the speed of play, the number of high intensity actions, the profile of the players, basically. You know, uh, you need players that can cope with this high intensity, and again, you need good players, but they need to be prepared to these demands, and don't forget that we are preparing players not for the game of today, but for the game of 5 years time, you know, or 10 years time. So we need to understand that the tendency is only going to increase in this case. So that's why it's important. For instance, for us, we train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, four times. Next year with the U17s, we're gonna train also twice in the morning, but it's gonna be more individualized training based on technical development, individual analysis, working on the mental skills and stuff like that. But for us, the Tuesday is the day that we also replicate the game day. So the Tuesday normally we do what we call the formations game. So we merge two teams. They play for 15 minutes in one formation against another formation. We ask them the questions that we want them to realize. And the reason for that is not only the tactical awareness that we want to develop, is also the fact that if you're gonna be a high performer football player in future, you're gonna be playing most likely Wednesday and Saturday or Sunday. So you're gonna have a middle on the week game. So we need to prepare them too physiologically for this, and how to recover from this, whether it's mentally or physically. So the idea is this: trying to envision, okay, how football will look like in 5, 10 years. How can we give them the tools to prepare them for this reality?
Because it's a fine gap to get, Juan, between developing the player individually and looking at the team as a whole. Johan Cruyff famously once said, teams don't develop, individuals within the team develop. And ideally, if you have better individuals, you'll have a better team. We've seen the FA in England in the last 5 years. They've put more of a concerted focus on addressing this issue too. And they get clubs now to adhere to a philosophy of super strengths, where basically players in each of the academies in the EPPP system within the UK, they'll be focusing on each player's individual strength, be it physical, be it technical, tactical, psychological, or socially speaking too. I mean, for you, getting that balance correct between how they relate to each other as a team member and how they're balancing that with individual work. You see the future game, perhaps. We've even heard Roberto Martinez speak about his Belgian team in Euro 2020. Football today, compared to 10 years ago, a completely different game. The pace of the actions, the space on the pitch. Roberto Martinez speaks about the game being a series of 1v1s, hence his desire to play a 3-4-3 to integrate as many of Belgium's attacking talents at his disposal into that team. I mean, if I had to push you for a certain formation, for a certain style of play, which you think will be beneficial over the coming 5 to 10 years, what does that look like?
That's a very interesting question. Thank you. I think there is no a close answer to that. What I think, and again, you just need to analyze the game. It was 5 years ago everybody realized to the 4-3-3, the 4-2-3-1, and it was hard to see uh, if there's three center backs, structures. While recently, in the last 3, 4 years, we started to see more and more teams adapting the line of three, whether it's with five or with three formation. So again, there is a trend in this sense, and I believe the answer to your question is we need to give the boys and the girls the opportunity to experience and learn as many systems of play as possible. And having one, um, let's say, main formation that you use, because it's the one that helps you develop your style better and creating the dynamics that you want to appear in the game. But the principles are regardless of the formations. And again, depending on the formation, you will enhance more ones or than others. But for us, the main principles of the game are something we're trying to replicate, and this is our DNA. But the formations, we're trying to teach them all, basically. And I mean, there is a bunch of information on YouTube about Bielsa and his ideas on the formations, how we match up every single one against each other. And I think it's brilliant. We took the essence of the idea from him, and we try to simplify it and adapt it to our reality. But again, I think we need to try to teach the young players how to play against the different systems, how to play within the different systems, how to play within the particular system on low, medium, or high block, So although you're gonna have an idea that is your main proposal, uh, during the game, a million things can happen, and you can get a red card, and then you have to change the strategy and even the formation because you are in one man down, So how do you react to that? How do you adapt to that? How do you manage the spaces, the time on this sense, So the more variety of opportunities you give to the boys to experience, the better. And, and again, that's positionally specific as well. We talk about having individual goals, individual plans. Sometimes we need to use the positions to develop the player, not to help him performing, So if you have a player that needs to, for instance, uh, if you want to encourage a player to get the ball into the space, because he always comes short to support, and you think, okay, I want him to develop the habit to want the ball into the space because he's a fast player and he doesn't take advantage of his speed right now. So maybe if he's an attacking midfielder, you might end up playing him as a winger just for the sake of, okay, you're going to receive the ball into the space in more occasions and you're going to have the opportunity to experience that in a better way if you go into this position. So how do you use systems and positions to develop the individual? I think it's important to take it into account.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's a case of formations are becoming more and more outdated. It's more about an adherence to those principles of play. And as you said, Juan, it's about creating that lived experience for the players on the training ground, adapting to different systems, adapting to utilizing different principles of play. And at the forefront, I suppose, of that teaching is, of course, the coach. And we, in fact, had FC Cincinnati head of player development, Larry Sunderland, on recently. And he spoke about, being a coach at the forefront of this narrative. It's a daily challenge with yourself. It's bridging the gap between what is and what can be. I suppose for a lot of young coaches watching this interview, Juan, I mean, what questions should they ask of themselves should they indeed wish to rise through the ranks like yourself?
I think what is important to me looking backwards is you need to learn different methodologies. You need to be open to different styles and ideas. I like the tactical periodization model as a organizational framework. I think it helps organizing your concepts. Uh, Again, that's something that is very personal, but I do believe that in youth development, the team it has to be the vehicle to individual development. And this can be achieved mainly if you have the focus on the player, because at the end, for instance, we were talking about how can we develop the technical development, the technical practices that we aim to develop uh, the positional specific situations. So, and we start thinking, all right, what are we here for? We're here to produce players for the first team, right? So maybe that we start a discussion and the conclusions were very nice because we realized, okay, at the very beginning, we need to rotate and provide the young players with the basic skills. They need how to pass the ball, they need how to control the ball, they need, how to strike the ball. And this is going to be a more generic technical development kind of exercises. As they grow up, they need to understand the position very well, and again, if you're a winger, you're gonna need to do the first touch correct, the crossing has to be, uh, good one, so you start designing the exercises uh, more position-based. And then when we arrived to the latest stages, we also thought, okay, so if our goal is our main priority is the best players we have. Why don't we design these practices, individual development, technical practices, based on their needs, based on the needs of these 4, 5, 6, 7 players that we believe they have the chance to arrive to the first team. So again, for young coaches starting their careers, I think be open to learn, be eager to learn, and think always player first. So try when you design an exercise, yes, you want the team to play in a particular way, but what is gonna be the takeaway for the player? How can you support this player individual development by using the team as a lead? That might be the main idea I would like. And then create your own model, don't be pragmatic to any given model. Try to learn, try to evolve, try to question yourself, and create a way of organizing your ideas that it helps the development of the players, but also it helps for you to grow as a coach. So that's more or less what I would like. If they can take this away, it would be awesome.
And ultimately, Juan, in your role as academy director, what does success mean for you?
Success for me and my role would be A, supporting the players to reach their own goals. As I said, this can be uh, played. We have a mantra. We want to put one player in the 2026 World Cup. That's the idea, okay? That's what we work for. And when we, in 2, 3 years, when we are fully built, we want to consistently bring 2 players every year to the first team. That's the KPI. But as I said, apart from that, there is a coaching education piece that, or coaching development that we are very committed to. And my success will be that our coaches all achieve their goals, whether it's coaching at the pro level or becoming a world-class expert on the youth level. So that's that would be, and for the rest of the players that they don't reach the top, if their goal was to go to college and gain a fully right scholarship, I wish them to. That's going to be another way of measuring success. So basically that, and having as well the satisfaction of looking backwards and say, okay, I helped creating a culture, I helped creating a model instead of imposing a model. So I created something that lasts beyond my stay in the club. So that would be the ultimate success for me.
And finally, to close, one club very close to your heart, Villarreal, of course, won their maiden European trophy recently with the Europa League against Manchester United in Poland. And at the heart of that team was a local boy named Pau Torres, straight through the academy. Is success of that magnitude achievable for Austin FC in 10, 15 years' time?
I believe so. I believe yes. And again, I think Villarreal is a good mirror for us to look at. It's a very good example. Uh, and here we are committed. Again, the way that from the facility, the way it's been built, I think I was showing you last time. Uh, that there is just a clear pathway from first team to the academy. Uh, the fact that we have, as I said, Josh Wolf as a head coach, very supportive to the academy. Claudio Reina, the sporting director. His son is Gio Reina, 17-year-old playing Champions League with Borussia Dortmund. So who better than him, to understand that if you give them chances to the players and you believe this is possible, you can have a 17-year-old playing the Champions League with Borussia Dortmund in America. So, and his dad is our sporting director. So basically, I think we are in the best spot in the planet to make this happen, to be honest. And having said that, we already had 4 players, age 15 or 14, training with the first in different occasions. So this has happened already. I think we are, everybody is committed, everybody believes this is possible, and hopefully in 10 years time we will have another interview like that, and we can start naming the list of players that they mean through the system, you know. That would be a nice thing to think about for 10 years and realizing it wasn't only a dream.
Fantastic. Anyways, Juan, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on. I can safely say to all Austin FC fans that their youth development is in safe hands with yourself over the coming years. I wish you and everybody else on that bus a very safe journey to Dallas, and best of luck with the tournament this weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your brilliant questions and your patience as well. I know it's been noisy at times with the, you know, with the interview here at the bars, but I really appreciate your time and the opportunity to share the ideas with your audience. Thank you.